everyone, it's Amy. Welcome back for week 13 of Crafting for Pleasure. This week we are going to make stickers again, and we are going to make stickers of our own projects. So we are going to make scrap monsters, which we've made scrap monsters for, I don't even know, quite a few years. And so these are some that I've made in the past. And they are first made by, you start out by making a full sheet of collage paper, just with all of your little scrap bits. You just throw them all on there, and then you just cut them into funky shapes. So you start by just cutting out a whole bunch of different little funky shapes. And that's all they are. They're just a little shape. And then you just go ahead and you put a face on them. And then like these, I actually had one of these came off when I was cutting parts up, and so I went ahead and I made another one to match it so that they were kind of like ears or earrings. These were leftover pieces and from cutting out another piece, so I used those as like little horns. And I just went ahead, I liked the shape of one, so then I would just flip it over and just draw it onto another piece so that they would kind of look alike. And and then these are all just scraps, and then we use marker to go ahead and make it look like it's been quilted. And then I just take a piece of regular paper and I draw all kinds. First I just draw a bunch of shapes, and then I do all kinds of little funky eyes and mouths and or cute ones, like this one's kind of cute. And look, this is even a little baby one that's being held by this one here. So because it was a scrap that got cut off, and these little horns here also came from scraps that got cut off as you're cutting it all out. And so here again, these were little scraps, and so I had one, so I cut another one to look like it, and then just the little different faces. And so once you cut out your just weird shapes, then you go ahead and you start just putting a little face on it and say, does this look good? Does that look good? This one, these were scraps here. And so I just glued them together and put a little circle in the middle to make it look like a little bow tie. So these are my little Bubbie dolls. And I make these out of fabric too and stuff them. But I love the Bubbie dolls. I don't know why. They're just so cute. And so I make these a lot. And I have these little scrap monsters and Bubbie dolls all over my art room. They're stood up here and there and everywhere. So after we did the stickers last week, and after we did this one, which is a solid sticker, that you can then take this off and stick it onto something, instead of the see-through stickers, I got to thinking, and it was like, I really want to make some of my own products to make stickers out of. So I got up this morning, and these are the ones that I made. And so I have 3 little Bubbie dolls, and I had one little piece left. So I made that one into a heart. And this is like one strip of my collage paper, but so I have this heart. And they're really nice and thick too. That's the nice thing about them. Now these ones are most of these are probably a little too wide. These probably might work. Well, these two, this one I think is too wide, because I made them all to be no wider than how wide my tape was. So I'm going to take all these other ones out of here. But this is just to kind of show you, you don't have to do the little Bubbie dolls. You can do, any kind of artwork that you like to do. I love to make the Bubbie dolls, and I love to give them. This was my first one, and it was a sample. And after I got her all put together, I thought, oh, I didn't give her a word. I thought about putting the words on the back. And after I got her done, it was like, that doesn't really work very well because she's a sticker. So once we take the sticker paper off and stick her to something, you won't see the back. So then I did the other two. So this one is Joy, and this one is Hope. And so I just love making these. And now as stickers, I think it's really awesome. I can stick them on the front cover of a journal. You can just put them wherever you're going to put stickers. And like I said, you can do it however you want. I'm going to show you how I did it. So to start out with, I just grabbed a bunch of my papers. So I have just a scrap drawers that have like each one is separate, red, orange, yellow. And so I went through and I picked out of each of the drawers regular paper. Like I didn't want cardstock. I have like some book page, but I didn't want cardstock because we've already got a piece of paper, then another piece of paper, and then we're going to put tape on it. So I didn't want it to be too heavy. I'm going to put my glasses on. But so I just went ahead and I just grabbed out a whole bunch. Like these are a lot of my leftovers from making my last one. I like to have them. I like them as I start getting lots of little ripped pieces because then I don't have to rip them as much. And I'm just going to kind of set this aside for a second and just kind of show you the process of how I do it. We won't fill this whole sheet because it does take a while. So I got lucky. My daughter called this morning, and so I just chatted with her, and before I knew it, my whole paper was full. So that worked well. But I just take a little bit of glue stick and just put it on my paper. Not too much because glue stick dries really fast. You can use wet glue. I used to always use water glue, which is just 2 parts of Elmer's glue, any kind of white glue like Elmer's glue, and 1 part water. Mix it together and brush it on the way that people use Mod Podge. But then you really have to wait for it to dry. It takes, quite a while. So I thought this morning I was going to try stick glue. I'd never done it before. And I also was thinking because we're going to have tape on top of it, it should probably be like it's not going to come apart. So whenever you rip paper, if you rip it towards you, you will not have a white line. Whatever you push away from you, which you're always going to have one of each, whatever you push away from you will have that white line. Just kind of a little thing there. So I'm going to use this piece on the edge, and I didn't want the white line, so I did it like that. But I don't even know what I was saying. I'm just going to put this on here. And I think I was talking about like water glue. The water glue has to dry, so I thought that I would try this. And because it's going to have tape over top of it, it should be just fine. Whereas when I use them like this, like these are all glued down with water glue, which you take the water glue, you put it on your paper, like Mod Podge, you put it on, put your paper on, and then you put some more over top of it. And so that holds it all together really, really well when you're going to do it like this and you're not covering it with anything. Now, also, contact paper, if you want to make bigger ones, because I'm making mine to fit within the size of my tape, but if you have some that are bigger, you can always use the contact paper exactly the same way, and that's bigger. So, that will give you a bigger surface area. To make your sticker out of. So you just go through the whole thing and just, like move your papers around. And a lot of times too, like which makes it a little faster, is as you're doing it, and I just ripped this piece in half, just put this piece here and then take the other half and put it over here. Because then you don't have to try and figure out what's going, I don't know. You still have to figure out where you're going to put it. But you're going to separate them that way. And also, like you've got it in your hand once. Why pick it up and put it on? To pick it up to have to put it on again. Pick it up, put it on. Both pieces. So, and just go through and try and like mix your colors up a little bit. This is some hand-dyed paper. Isn't that a really pretty piece? I really like that. I'm going to put this one here. Put them different directions. And with your Bubbie dolls and your, especially since we're making them smaller, make your collage with smaller pieces. Because then when you're cutting them up, you'll get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Versus if your pieces are really, really big, you may only get, like just a little bit of that and a little bit of that, and that's all, instead of like a whole bunch of different colors, like over if you cut a piece over here. So that's another thing to think about when you're doing it, is it is faster to do a great big huge piece, but when you go to cut your monsters out, you may only wind up with a couple pieces of paper, even though you've put a lot of paper all over your collage. So I'm going to kind of go back to trying to make a little bit, ripping them in a little bit of a smaller pieces. And then if you do cut out your Bubbie doll or your scrap monster and you find out that it's only 1 or 2 pieces of paper and you want it to have more color, all you need to do is, you've got it cut out, just go ahead and take a piece of paper and put it on whatever you have cut out, and to fill in that area. But so I would just go through and I would do this whole thing. And again, like I said, it does take a little while, especially when you're doing it where, like I should be doing it with a little bit of smaller pieces, so that we have a good variety on our cutouts. So once you get the whole thing done, you'll let it dry just a little bit, because with the stick glue, it pretty much is pretty dry and ready to go right away. So you have now your collage paper that's completely full. So then what I did was I turned it over and I measured my tape, and my tape is not quite 2 inches wide. So I made a line at 1 3/4 so that whatever I cut out of here will fit within the boundaries of my tape, because you want to have, when you look at this, you know, the black outline is my drawing. The white part that you can see, that is the tape that's sticking over my drawing. And so this tape, the tape underneath and the tape on the top are both the same width. And you'll see what I mean about that in a minute if you didn't see last week's video. So you have an original piece of tape down, you set your drawing on it, and then you put a piece of tape over top of it. And you want to make sure that your drawing is completely encased. So your drawing has to be smaller than the tape, and then you cut the tape a little bit wider to hold the front to the back. And the back is what is the sticky part. So the back, you have, this whole thing is all sticky tape. It's not just the little edge that you could see from the front. It is the whole back. This whole thing is a sticker. So it's a much stronger sticker that way. And I'll show you how to put the backing and everything on it. So anyways, that's why I went ahead and I did this. And when I got to the very end, if I would have done 1 3/4 inches, then I wouldn't have even had like 1 1/2 left. So I just split the difference and did 1 1/2 and 1 1/2. And so that I wasn't wasting a really thin strip. So, but then you can just go ahead, and I just freehand everything. So I don't, like even my Bubbie dolls. Now see, this one's already got, my original Bubbie doll that I cut out, she was really quite large, didn't fit on my tape. That's what made me think to draw the lines so that the next time they would all fit. So with this one then, I'm just going to, because it's not going to, that shape is not going to be a Bubbie doll. So I'm just going to kind of like just cut around some weird kind of shape. Like that. Okay, so this is going to be my scrap monster. So then when we flip it over, and then we just kind of look at it. Now I see this one now. I didn't see it. Well, I see it there. But when I was cutting it out, I was just cutting it out. But now that I flipped it over, I see a dinosaur head, and a dinosaur tail, and a dinosaur belly, and a dinosaur foot. So this is going to be a little dinosaur. And so that's my scrap monster. He's going to be a dinosaur. And you just keep going. Now, these little pieces here, I just cut them off because you can use them for different things. These are the pieces that I used for different, like I could use this to give him, look at that, he could have a little party hat. So I just kind of do it like that. That's going to be his party hat. And that's really cute. And so then he needs a face. And you know, the hard part here is he needs like a sideways face, really. That's, so not exactly sure how to do it. I don't normally do sideways faces. I'm going to have to think about that. But I do like his hat. And so then what you're going to do is you'll just go through and cut as many different things as you want. I just cut my Bubbie dolls by hand. And I just cut like a rounded base. And you know what you can do if you want is like do a figure 8 and then kind of cut around the figure 8. You know, if you don't think that you can cut it by hand. None of mine are exactly the same. You know, they all kind of look the same, but they're all different sizes with different size heads, different size necks, different size bodies. But they basically look the same. But no two are ever going to be like, no, this, and see, I see it better from the back than the front sometimes when I'm trying to get my shape. So I see that this is much deeper than this, and I think that I want to kind of match that a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of look at that and just take this one in a little bit like that and see if that's a little bit better. Yeah, so. Now that one's a little, but it's better. I like it better, so I'm good with that. So then I'm going to turn it over, and this will be my Bubbie doll. So, and then I take regular white paper for the faces. Now this guy, I'm thinking maybe not. I might have to just draw his face on him because I just don't know how to do it with white paper. But normally how I do this, wrong color pen. I don't know what I do with my black pen. I thought I had it right here. Okay, well, one of these is wider than the other. That one's a fine point. This one's wider, so I'll use this one. So what I do is I take a piece of paper and I just draw some shapes. Now, knowing that my ovals are going to be about this size, my heads, I don't want my ovals to be too big. And some of them might be even smaller, so I don't want, I want some small ones. And then some different shapes. And so I just go through and just do a whole bunch of them. And then I put faces on them. And then a lot of times what I do is I copy them on my copy machine, which you don't have to. And if you don't have a copy machine, but you really want to do like a couple pages full of them, and I do the whole thing, so you get a lot of scrap monsters out of one piece of paper. And if you don't have a copy machine, you can take another piece, let me see, of your scrap paper and just put it over top and then just trace the ones underneath. And I will tell you, I don't like them all. When I do them, I probably like about half of them, and I only use about half of them. So if that happens to you, just know it happens. So like with my little Bubbie dolls, I kind of like to make their little like sleepy eyes, and I give them a few little eyelashes and maybe an eyebrow and a nose and a mouth. And so see, she turned out pretty cute. So you can also do like, and if you like look at, like, if you just look on YouTube for how to draw like cartoon faces or something like that, then like it will show you all different sorts of things. Give it a little bit of hair. So, and that's really wide. So if I don't want that black line that wide when I cut it out, I just cut it a little bit of a different shape. So let me see. So I've got this one, and I'm thinking that this might be the right size. Give her a little curly Q there. Couple little eyelashes, a little tiny nose, and smile. And so I would just go through and do all of those. Now with our little guy here, I'm thinking maybe we'll just give him a nose. And an eye. And a mouth. There we go. So that turned out pretty cute. Okay, so now we'll just cut out our face for our little Bubbie doll. I think I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to kind of cut it bigger so I'm not dealing with that whole piece of paper. And that is a really wide black line, a little too wide for me, so I'm just cutting part of it off. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just cut that off there, and that looks good. So that one's going to go there. And then we've got our little guy here, and we've got his hat. So now we're going to take, oh darn it, I really want my fat black marker. I just don't know what I did with it. That's what happens when you have too many. All in the same place. There we go. Hopefully this is my good one. Okay, so to start with, I just go ahead and I just draw around the outside. Just to, it makes it stand out. It does make a really big difference just to do that, but you do need to be careful to keep your pen, or to keep your marker from like accidentally swooshing onto your paper, because I've done that before too. You start to go around and go whoop, and a lot of times I figure out a way just to kind of incorporate it. So if you do that, just kind of look at it. You can probably fix it somehow, cover it up or whatever. So we're going to just go around him. Yeah, he's kind of cute. And see, that's the thing, like you just cut from the back side so that you don't know what color papers you're getting or anything, and just cut and don't think about the shape. When I was cutting, I thought, oh, like maybe that was sticking out. I thought that maybe that will wind up being a horn. It wound up being a foot. So, well, I guess it's a tail. So there we go. And his hat too. Don't forget his hat. If you can outline everything that you're going to use, it makes it better. It makes a let's try that again. Distinction between the different pieces. So there is his hat. And I think that I want this line on the bottom just a little bit thicker. So I'm going to kind of lean my pen in just a little bit. Be very careful. And see if that kind of, yep, that did. Made it a little thicker there. Because now we can see it better. And he is probably going to need a little arm. And so I usually just take the stuff that I cut up, which I'm not sure what I did with it, and I use that as all of my little pieces. So here is a piece from earlier that I had cut out my other ones from. But he needs little arms, so I'm going to, I think I'll just kind of make it a little bit like a paw or a mitt or something, you know, a little bit fatter there, and then like skinny like an arm. I already had that there, so maybe he's going to have an elbow. I have to remember he has to fit within my tape, so I don't want his hand to stick out too far. Here's my tape. Yep. I'm going to kind of have to keep his arm within the boundaries of his body almost. So I'm just going to make his hand shorter. Like that. There we go. And he's going to get a scarf, so that will cover up that joint at the top. And so again, we're just going to draw around like that. So there's that part. And he needs a scarf. That's not going to be what I want. Let's try this right here. Okay. This is going to go right here. And I'm not cutting it with any particular shape, really, just kind of straightening it out a little bit. And then maybe kind of curve it up just a little bit. Or down, whichever way we decide to put it on. I think like that. Okay. But we're going to do his arm first. Kind of watch where you're putting your glue on your paper so that you don't accidentally stick all your stuff in it. I'll put this like this. And see how that makes his arm stand out, even though those two colors right there and those two colors right there are the same. Now my little scarf, which didn't get drawn on yet, so let's do that. I'm not going to do the ends because the ends are going to get cut off once I put it on him, and then I will blacken them. So we will put this one on here. Just like that. And then do my best to get that little piece out of there. And cut this little bit off right here. It's a little too long up there under his chin. I don't like that, so there. Okay, and so we do want that to be colored. There we go. Oh, we can't forget his hat. I'm going to put the glue on his head, I think. So there we go. He is all put together, and now all we have to do is make him into a sticker. So we'll put him right there, and we will do our little Bubbie doll. Here's a face from, I'm not sure how it got up here, but there's a little face from earlier. I just wound up having them around. It didn't fit for one of them that I was making, so I just made another one, but I kept it because it will work for another one. I have to decide which is the top and which is not. Definitely this is the top. I'm going to put her head right there. And I actually think I'm going to... Now first, before we do this, and I didn't do it to him, I forgot. I usually go through and I separate, like I put little stitches on all of the separations, but I try and use, I rather use the fine marker, not the fat one. So you can go ahead and like, okay, so I started with a straight kind of stitch like this for this green piece. So I'll go around the whole green piece like this. So it looks like I actually stitched this on. And I am doing this a little bit fast, but it's okay if it looks a little bit messy. I'm even going to put some of these thin stitches there. And then just go all the way around. Now I can decide for the outside edge, do I want to do that kind of a stitch? Or do I maybe want to do a stitch like this, which also looks really nice. And so you can just like do all different sorts of stitches. I'm even going to kind of go like this to separate out that little piece. You could even do an X, like a cross stitch. And maybe do like all the way around the outside edge as a straight stitch. And this does take just a little bit of time, so I'm just kind of going fast. But take your time. And you know, the thing is you can cut a bunch of these out and then go sit while you're watching TV at night and stitch them all with your pen. So just like that. And now the thing is that I think that her face is a little bit too small or her head is a little bit too big. So I'm going to take her face and I am going to put it on here. Right about there, I think. That looks pretty good. And then, because I think that her head is just a little too big, I'm going to go ahead and cut her head a little bit smaller. Kind of to fit her face better. Yes. I like that. And so remember, once you've already outlined everything, if you cut the edges, just go ahead and outline wherever you cut. Oh, see, I went in just a little bit right there, but it's okay. We're not going to worry about that. Actually, she's going to get a scarf, so we really don't have to worry about that. And so I'm just going to come in here, I guess, and put these stitches back in. Like that. And I might even kind of go like this so it looks like the green one is stitched under there. And there we go. So now she needs a scarf, or she could even have a little like bib or a little necklace, but I'm going to give her a scarf because I like the scarves. And I like to do it with the same thickness of this, but I guess I'm gonna use regular paper. That's okay. But I usually just use all of my cutoffs. That's what I usually do because they give you some cool shapes, and I usually do it with whatever shape it gives me. I don't like that one. It doesn't have enough. It didn't have enough color to it. So I'm going to kind of round this a little bit and then round back out here. That probably will be long enough for both pieces. Maybe, maybe not. Cut it in the middle. And then I do my scarves like this. But they need to be drawn around so that we can see them because they blend right in. And then if you have, especially if you have a plain scarf, you could write a nice word on the scarf. You don't have to put words on them at all. But you can put a word on them anywhere you want to. It could be on the scarf, it could be on the body somewhere. The scarf is a little thin. And I, a lot of times, will write the words with a ballpoint pen just because I find it easier to, I don't know if I want to say control, but it doesn't bleed. I'm going to put that one right there because it kind of cuts that white part in half, and I think that maybe I'll put that up a little bit. I'm going to put my word right there. So we're going to put this scarf right here, and we're going to put the other piece right there. And then again, just like before, just go to the back. And if you have like little trimming scissors, that might work better instead of great big old hunkers like this. But look, it works. That's the thing. You work with what you've got. That's what makes it pleasurable to craft. You're not spending tons of money trying to keep up with everybody else. You just work with what you've got and you just enjoy yourself. And so we'll put a little word on here. We'll put love. And I do just kind of go over it a few times, and if it looks a little messy, that's okay too. Kind of make it look a little thick or whatever. So there we go. Now she's done. Now he actually needs to really quickly have some stitches put on him. So we will just, I'll just use this stitch to outline this one. We'll do the same thing. And actually that's all one piece, but now I put the stitches on there, so I have to finish. And when I have two pieces come together, sometimes I do just one stitch, sometimes I do two stitches next to each other like this. Because it all just depends on how you sewed it. But see, this makes the distinction between all of the different pieces of paper that you have on here, which is really fun. Because a lot of times when you're just looking at it, people don't even notice that, you know, you've got all these different pieces of paper on here. But when you separate them this way, it's very noticeable. And I'm not going to stitch the... I'm not going to stitch on the scarf. The last piece is here. And I'll just do one there. So there we go. And you know, these are not separate pieces, but I am going to do this because I think that that looked a little plain to me right there. So I'm going to do that. And even maybe right across this green one. And here. There we go. I like that. And maybe I'm even going to just give him, there, a couple of light fingers on his paw. So once you get your drawing done, then we're going to turn it into a sticker. And the first thing that I do is going to dump this stuff off of here. There we go. You don't want all those little bits getting stuck in my sticker. So I have sticker paper. You can also use just parchment paper. You take the shiny side of your sticker paper, and we're going to use this to make our sticker background. So what I'm going to do is, this is how wide the tape is. So I can get 2 pieces of tape onto this one sticker sheet. These are just old sticker sheets. When the stickers are gone, I go ahead and I save the shiny part that the stickers came off of so that I can use it whenever I make my own stickers. So I'm going to put a slice in the paper from each end, and you'll see why in a minute. It's so that we can use 2 stickers or so with each one of these. Then I'm going to take the tape, and I like to lay it down. I'm going to use my scissors to kind of hold my tape from rolling. Okay, so I'm going to put it with the sticky side up, and then make sure that you have your shiny side and put it on your tape. Now I'm going to go, the edge of the tape is there, I'm going to go just a little bit past the edge of the tape, so that if I try and line it up exactly and part of the tape is sticking off my paper, that's worse than if part of the paper is sticking off the tape. We can cut the paper off, but we want to use all of the tape. So we don't want to have to cut off a little sliver if we don't get it lined up well. So we're just going to put that on there, just like that, and then just cut it off. Get that there. So now we have this whole piece of tape on there just like that. And that doesn't need to be smushed down on there because that's just the backing paper to hold it. I'm going to now, don't stick, there we go, do it again on the other side so that I can get my 2 pieces out of this one backing paper. So again, I'm going to leave a little bit of the tape stick off the end there and a little bit of the tape stick out there, and I will cut that off. I did that backwards. See, now I'm going to cut that tape off, and now what does that do? It makes my tape smaller. So because luckily this is just the backing paper, it will come right off the tape. We're going to do that again. I'm going to stick the paper so that it sticks off of the tape. A little bit. Flatten that out. Okay, made it. And then I'm just going to cut this off. And you do want to make sure that you put the sticky side or the shiny side onto your tape so that you don't stick it to the back where it's just regular paper, because then you'll never get it off. Okay, so there we go. Now our tape is sticking out a little bit, and so I'm just going to cut that off just so that it doesn't stick to anything. That was just on the end. on the end here too. The ends don't matter because that doesn't give us the width that we were measuring for. And so when you look at it like this, I'm going to cut along the edge of the tape, just like that. It doesn't matter how crooked it is, just taking off the paper. I don't know if you can see the shine of the tape, and see right there, you can see where the difference is. It is hard to see a little bit. So there we go, that one's done. Take the paper off of this one. By cutting the paper off, I know that I have enough tape. I should have enough tape, I should say, to use for my little dolls, my little stickers. So I had 3 of those, so I have 6 pieces of this tape. Now, why did I go ahead and cut those slices in there? That is so that we can peel it. And I don't know if we can get 1 or 2 on here. Not quite big enough to do 2, but I will, when I cut that off, I will save this piece. And that's what I used to make my heart, because my piece was a little bit small. Okay, so now we're going to put him on here. And the reason that we sliced that backing paper is so once he is on here, we're going to be able to peel that backing off and turn him into a sticker very easily. So I'm going to put just a touch of glue on the back of him. You don't have to do that. I find it easier for him to not move on me when I'm putting the next piece of tape on. Because you've got this tape on the bottom, becomes the tape that becomes your sticker. This whole thing is going to be a sticker. The tape on the top is going to hold him to that sticker part. Just going to make sure, and it doesn't matter if he's straight or anything because we're going to cut around him. Try and make sure that you have a little bit of white everywhere. Don't put him right up against the edge because you want to leave a little bit of the top tape. So that's why you cut with a bit of an extra, because that extra is the top tape that tapes him to this piece of tape. If any of this makes sense to you. Okay, so now I'm going to take a piece of tape. I'm just going to oh my goodness gracious. I had stuff stuck to my scissors. Stuff isn't supposed to stick to these scissors. There we go. And I hope that that does not seal itself up. So I'm going to take this piece of tape and line it up, trying to make sure again that I have a little bit of tape overlapping every edge. And then you're going to want to press down really well, like around those edges. You're going to want to seal the top piece of tape to the bottom piece of tape is what we're doing. And I usually just kind of do this. And also if you want to rub it kind of hard, a piece of fabric works well because it kind of, it's soft. So it kind of pushes into those areas where there's a little bit, this is higher than this. It can kind of push into that area, but the fabric itself does not scratch your tape. So you can just kind of use your fabric to make sure that there's no air bubbles, and just to make sure that along the edge you've got some really good contact like that. So there he is. And now we're going to cut around him. And don't cut it too close. You want a little bit of that sticker. That sticker is not what makes him stick to your paper. It's what makes him stick to that backing tape. And remember, the white that you see now, you will not see. That white will go away when you take the backing off, because that's what the white is. And that will just be tape sticking out that little bit like that, clear tape. So you won't see that at all. There's our sticker. Isn't he cute? I really love him. And you know, that's the thing. When you just cut funky shapes and then you figure out what they're going to be, you know, they're awesome. So there's our sticker, and that slice in the back makes it, because now this is very solid and very, it's kind of heavy. You're just going to bend it just a little bit and that will separate. And then you just grab a hold of that and you peel it off. You peel off both sides, and this whole thing is sticky, and you're going to stick it on something. And see where we've taken that off, there is no white there. The white goes away with the backing paper. So then it's just a little bit of tape sticking out the edge there. But he is so cute. And the other thing is that I noticed when I covered them with the tape, the colors they just seem to get a little bit brighter. So I'm not going to cover her because we're already at 51 minutes and I want to make sure that this does upload because it turned out well and I love him. So that is how you can make your own stickers with your own drawings, your own creations. And how simple is it? You know, it's not like, I'm not an artist as far as, you know, being really artsy. I don't know how to say it. I don't draw well. You know, to me, I do a lot of mixed media. I don't draw. So to tell myself, oh, you've got to draw this or draw that, this is so forgiving because you just do it however you want to. If you don't like the face, you don't put it on. If the head's too big, you cut it a little smaller and redo your stitches. It's just so forgiving, and it's just very fun to play with. And I love the little dinosaur. So thank you very much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video today. So if you get a chance, watch a commercial here or there. It does help. Share this with your friends if you like it and you think that they will like it. So thanks again. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.